Hello YouTubers, Manny here from Manny's How To Workshop with a video today on showing you how to clean an AC system contactor that goes to your outside unit, your what do you call it, condenser. And this one's an older style. It's made by Fasco. Here's the model number right there on the top right, as you can see, and that's the ratings right there, depending on your application. Okay, so basically this one has full open. In other words, the newer styles that they sell now, actually this whole part right here, from this side right here all the way over to the top and down to the other side, it's enclosed. And I guess that's just to help keep critters like ants, who down here in Florida, for some reason, they love going in here and getting in between the contacts right there. See, this is the plunger. When you apply the 24 volts AC to this side and this side, which comes in from the air handler inside the house, these contacts will close. So basically, when the system's off, this is normally open. But as soon as you call for cooling or heat, this will push down. Power comes in on this side right here. On these two, inputs, right here and right here, and gets passed across and comes out on this side. Okay. Now, normally there's always 120 volts. One leg of it is always there. In other words, from one side to the other, by way of a little jumper wire like this one. This actually goes on this side right here. Okay, when it's normally hooked up, that's how it is, just like that. For this purpose, I just took it off, disconnected it. But like I said, there's always 120 on one side. From one side to the other. But there's always 208 to 240 between the two, if you were to measure it while it's live, it's hooked up. So when you call for cooling and this coil energizes right there, that little coil right there, this is an AC volt coil. And once that gets energized, it pulls the contacts down, allows the second leg of power to go from this to this, and that's what runs the condenser motor, fan motor, and the compressor, because they both work on 208 and above, 200 volt AC and above. You need those two legs at the same time in order to get them to start, because of those motors. If you look at the plate right here, it tells you the starting. The full load amps, that's the FLA, it's 30. The LRA is load running amps. If you're using 240, 277, maximum is 150. And you see for 480 and 600. Since our system's only 240, that's the maximum right there. And then RES, I forgot what that stood for. But that says 40. And then starting amps, I know for the compressor on mine, I believe it can hit up to like between 70 and 90, and then it calms down. Like after the start capacitor breaks off, the run capacitor takes over, and it only operates around I think it's like about 15 to 20 amps from what I measured the other day. Oh, by the way, see this right here? This says the coil, 24 volts AC. And it gives you also the torque value right there, 22 inch-pounds for the screws. These screws right here. Now, these four. Yep, these four screws right there. But anyway, so, all right, so the reasoning for me wanting to clean these contacts. Well, like I said, just a couple of days ago, I was in my office, and like normal, I can hear my air handler kick in, but the outside unit, and the way I do is I just look out my window and I can see if the fan came on because I have a, what do you call it? It's like a plastic cover over the condenser. And that all that is for is to help to keep the rain off of it, because the parts in there can rust out a lot quicker if you don't have that, meaning it's always exposed. But when the flap comes up, I know the fan is running. And if the fan is running, chances are the compressor is running as well. It's just a good indicator for me to let me know, well, like I said, air handler is running and the system was running before, and all of a sudden it stopped. So I'm like, okay. So I went to investigate, and I had a feeling that it was a contactor, because like I told you guys before, down here in Florida, for some reason, these tiny little ants, not so much the fire ants, but the other, the sugar ants and some other ones, they love to go in there. And of course, when they get in there, and if this contactor keeps getting pulled down, you got electricity arcing between there, they're getting fried, right? So they build up on the contacts, and then pretty soon you're not getting good contact from one to the other, and your voltage is not going across. And that can actually cause problems, because then you get, like, you can get too much current and whatnot, and it would be a pain in the butt. So I'm going to show you how to take this apart and how you can clean those contacts. All right. So I'm going to come around to the other side, and I'm going to show you how you can do it. All right. So basically, oh, well, I forgot to mention, you need a Phillips screwdriver right here, pair of needle nose pliers, a little pick that comes into play later for the spring in there that gives you the tension, going down. A multimeter right there, because if you want to get preliminary readings on the contacts, on the coil beforehand. Matter of fact, let's do that now, so you guys can see. Just put these over here for a second. Turn this on, put it on ohms, and I'm just going to bring the wires around. And it doesn't matter which side you connect your, your probes on, because it since it runs on AC, AC, you got hot, you got neutral, it's alternating, so it really doesn't matter. And it doesn't, there's no polarity, in other words. So basically you can see that my coil is reading 13.3 amps, okay? Now the coil ohms is not going to change from me cleaning the contacts, just to let you know. Me showing you that right there is because to show you that the coil is good. If that reading said, oh well, out of limits, then it would mean that the coil was bad because there was a break in the windings. And of course, when the 24 volts would come here, then it wouldn't pull it down. And then of course you'd have to get a new one, a whole new one of these. Although I think you could replace the coil just by itself, but more than likely they're going to sell you just a whole new one. All right. And just to show you also, right here, I'm going to go ahead and measure the resistance from one side to the other. Basically, I'm just measuring resistance across these two. And right now, it's going to show OL until I push down. Let me get that in the frame. There we go. Until I push down on the contactor. And these go down at the same time. Both of them will go down because they're linked underneath. So once I push down on here, you see I got 0.6, 0.5. I mean, it's starting to go down. That tells me that my contacts are dirty, because normally when you just connect the leads together, you see how it's 0.1? It should be 0.0, okay? Because there's no resistance in the leads. See, it's 0, right? But the fact that it's reading a resistance, that tells you that something is in the way of the contacts, of being having a clean path. You should always have continuity between the two. Okay, once again, now I'm doing the opposite side. You can see I'm doing the opposite side, and when I push down, That one is even worse. See, 18.6 ohms. So let me push it again, both at the same time. 22.6 ohms. All right. So that tells me that this is really dirty on this side right here. Okay. So hence why we're gonna go ahead and clean it, and then we'll take the measurements again after and see if it made a big difference. All right. So you put the alternator aside. I don't remember if I mentioned that all you need to clean the contacts is a piece of sandpaper like this. And I think this grit is about 60 or 80. 80 grit. Okay. All right. So take your Phillips screwdriver and put my glasses over here. All right. So you take your Phillips screwdriver and you take the big screws out. Okay. Now these big screws, basically they're not actually holding these plates in. These is if you wanted to like put wires in there, okay? I mean, technically I don't have to take them out, but I take them out just because it gives me actually a better way to use a needle nose to when I can pull the pieces out, okay? All right. There's actually 4 tiny little Phillips screws in here. Let me see if I can get the camera to pick it up. Let's see. In the light, maybe I can just... There we go. Okay. See those 4 little screws in there? Those little Phillips? Yeah, you need... let me see. This is a number 2 Phillips, but I believe I have... Okay, I have this screwdriver right here. It's a precision from a precision screwdriver set, and that will help to take these out. Yeah, because I guess you could use like a number 1 Phillips tip. See, and this is what the needle nose helps you to do because it's so tiny. And like I said, that's what holds. That's so you can get to the bottom contacts. Okay. Or I guess you can call them points also, because all they are is small, tiny, little round contact points. All right. So you grab that, take that one out, and then wow. Sometimes it can, I mean, I don't put them on there really tight, but just from the heat, from the voltage, you know, passing through. So now all you got to do is lift like that, lift and pull out. And these don't matter which side they go on because they're all the same. Okay. And something you will notice is that the difference between the contacts where the jumper wire was on, which means that there's always voltage there. For some reason, the points, when the side where the jumper is, really there's not. Sometimes there's not voltage going across those points, okay, because it's already jumping across. You know, it's already bypassing. So I'm going to show you the difference of the contacts. Let's see. Yep. Of the ones that, like I said, had the bypass power and the one that didn't. And also I'm going to show you Okay, this is what I was using the needle nose for. See, right here, because of the spring, if you grab the contacts and you flip it sideways like this, you are able to get it out of there. Okay, now you got to be careful because the spring can let's see, use the pick. Actually, that's what you got to do, is just use the pick to pull down on the spring and then get it out so that it's a little tricky, but it can be done. Come on, you little bugger. Oh, there we go. All right, so here's the first spring. And because of electricity, sometimes they get magnetic too. All right, tiny little spring. And then you can just grab the contactor, turn it sideways, and pull it through. And this is the top ones. All right. So, all right, I just got the other spring. And all right, and then grab the other side. Now you can only probably clean these so much before those points start to wear down, so to the point where you have no more contact surface, and then you'll just have to either get some new ones or just get a new contactor. But anyway, I mean, it's pretty, you can see the remnants of what looks like an explosion in there, or like smoky color looking. All right, so but let's take a closer look at the contacts that were, you know, that were dirty versus the ones that were clean. All right, so here we go. Okay, so this contact, this one right here, as you can see how it's shiny, right? That's the one that had the bypass wire going to it. And as you can see, there's no burn marks, right? But look at the other one. Yeah, it's part shiny, but you can also see the dark spots, and then there's pitting as well from the you know, from the arcing of the electricity jumping over. And you see how that one still has meat on it right there, probably a little over 1/16 of an inch, whereas this one, I turn it sideways, I mean, there's barely anything on there, right? And that's the reason why I chose to put this one on the side where the jumper is. Okay, so that, you know, when the coil sucks it down, even if this doesn't make contact to the other, you know, this point doesn't make contact to the other points, then it's definitely gonna, you know, still work pretty good. And that's why these, as you can see on this one, still shiny and clean, and there's barely some meat left on there, you know, like that. And that's the reason why, like I said, same thing with this one right there. It's about like 1/16 of an inch, I want to say. And these have more meat. Okay, it's a little bit thicker, and you can see, like especially on this one, I don't know if you can see with the light, but see how dark it is? Let's see if we can get a better light. Okay, right there. See how dark where the point is? Yeah, that's from the arcing and stuff. So, like I said, there's no, I don't see no dead like ants in there, but something's definitely going on in there. Okay, causing bad contact. So let's go ahead and clean those real quick. And the plunger works. Also, there's another spring on the bottom in here inside the coil. And to take the coil out, there's 2 screws on the bottom. There's one little one here, one little here, then this whole thing comes off. And that's where the spring is. Okay, so we'll go ahead and take the sandpaper, just fold it over like this, and just basically just run it across the, like that, the point, okay? Like I say, you're not trying to like take off too much, you're just trying to clean off the surface. That's all you're doing, is just cleaning off the surface, just like that, till it's pretty shiny. I don't know if that shows up on the camera, but that one's good. Okay, here's the other side of it. Like I said, it's got the darkening. Anytime there's like an arc jump, it's gonna, you know, it's gonna be like smoky. It's gonna cause some pitting, and that's what I'm trying to get rid of. I'm trying to get rid of the pitting, and then that way it's a smooth, you know, like points back in the day from ignition system, from the cars. You want those points to be nice. Like this one's smooth, so I'm just getting rid of the pitting. All right, so that's good. And now this is the one that actually works there. That's got more meat. So I'm doing the same thing. I'm just cleaning off the burrs. And I think this, I had switched the contactors probably a couple of years ago. I want to say it was the last time this thing acted up. Right now I have another contactor. What happened was the first time I had issues with this contactor, I went ahead and bought a new one because I thought, you know, it was all jacked up and everything, and so I went ahead and bought a new one. And then I said, you know what, let me see if I can fix that. And sure enough, I did. I fixed it, and it became the backup. So the new one is in there now, but the new one is different. The new one doesn't have two plungers. Only has one side has a plunger, and the other side is straight through. There's a metal piece that goes right across, so you don't have a jumper anymore. And that's what happens when they make new stuff. So now, like I said, match them. Make sure the same one that's got the same meat. These I don't have to do anything to, because like I said, they already have. They're all clean because the jumper goes on that side. All right. This one looks like it has a raised side, so let me go ahead and clean that. Oh, and that's the other thing. So if this type of contactor ever goes, you can always switch these over, because you know one side is the only side that really makes contact with power, so you can always switch it over. All right, so now we can reassemble everything back together. Okay, let's start with this. And it doesn't matter which side I pick, but because I mount it on with this facing out, so I'm going to make sure that this side right here is the side that makes contact. So that's the one that I'm going to go ahead and put that in there like that. Goes in like this. And then this little guy right here goes back in here through the middle. You have to turn it over, obviously. Let's see if you can see that. Like that. And then, let's see, how's that in framing? Okay, still good. All right, so then you take the little spring and you try to sneak it back in there. And the trick is to try to get it on the surface, because right in here, there's a little lip that comes up and holds the spring in place, so it keeps it from sliding back and forth. See, and once you get the spring started, I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, let's try to get it into the light there so we can see. All right, see the spring in there? Once you get it started like that, you just slide it in. It'll compress and slide right in there. So, let's put this back in there. Okay, like that. And actually, let me go ahead and put a tiny little screw so that doesn't, at least get it started anyway. so that clip doesn't fall out again like it did. And it's easier if you use the needle nose just to hold it, place it in the hole like that. Okay, cinch it down. Alright, so the spring, all I'm going to do is I'm going to walk it in there like this. Until then, flip it over, make sure, because there's these little tangs, like I said, on the contact pointer that hold the spring from sliding back and forth. And the spring's already in there. Alright, so now I'm just going to do the other side. Put these in there, like this. And these actually have a tab right here on the bottom that slide right down into a little slit right there that keeps it from moving. But put that in there. In there like that. Cinch those down. Alright. Okay, we'll grab this guy. Same thing. Feed it in there sideways. Flip it over so it's facing down. The point's facing down. Take the spring. Put it in there and just guide it right. Put it right next to it, and I use the pick to push down on the top of the spring and then angle it in at the same time. And once it catches, whoop, and there it goes. Yeah, that's the other thing. You got to be careful. Let's try that again. So, oh, see, that worked even better. Taking the spring with the needle nose, halving it, push down and let it slide in a little bit, actually helps it. And then just pop it in there. Okay. There we go. Both popped in there. And that spring is a retractor spring. That's what brings it back up, you know, to keep the contacts from making contact all the time, and then your system ends up running constantly, which that's happened to a lot of people before. And that's when points weld together. Happened to my cousin a long time ago. That's all the problem was, and they called an AC guy that wasn't too honest, trying to charge him for all kinds of stuff, and then when they asked me if I could check it out for them, I said, yeah, I'll check it out. Sure enough, I said, you still have the old contactor? Yep. So they showed it to me, and I'm like, all the guy had to do was replace the contactor. But he tried to upsell, them, I think, refrigerant charge, a contactor, capacitor, the whole 9 yards. I'm like, really? I said, never use them guys again. At the time, I was just taking my class. I wasn't even licensed yet. But, all right, so back together. So let's go ahead and take those measurements again. Okay, so I'll go ahead and measure the coil again, just to show you that it really didn't change. See, coil still 13.2. It was 13.3 before. With coils and solenoids, yeah, when they're warm, the resistance is higher. When they get cooler, the resistance is lower. Okay, so now let's check continuity between the two different sides and see. Well, let me see. So the side that's the side that has the thicker points is going to be the opposite side. So let's check that one first, because that's the one that's going to have the bypass wire on it. Okay. So right now you can see it's out of limits. Let me do it this way. All right. So right now you can see it's out of limits. So when I push down on the plunger, we got 5.2. And on that side, I think that's the one we had like 22, 25. So I guess the reason for the little bit of resistance could be because it's the constant arcing over time has created on the points themselves, because it looked like those, let's see, 6.5. Yeah. I mean, it did go down. That's not going to prevent the power from going from one side to the other. Let's see this side. What is this going to look like? 0.6. Yeah, see, this one barely has anything because it's got the thinner points. So I guess thinner points means less material, so less material has less resistance. Let's check this side again. 10.8. Yeah, it's warming up, so that's why fluctuating. Okay. And like I said, in an AC system, resistance, yeah, it plays a role in it, but not that much. And so now I'm going to show you that you can actually run these AC coils, like this little AC coil, with DC current. I have a power supply right here, and let me turn this around. Okay, I'll put it right there. I don't know if you can see that. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. I'm going to put my positive lead on one side, which is the back side, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it on. I have it set to 12 volts, 12.1 volts, and as soon as I touch this right here, you can hear it pull down, and you can see how much current it's drawing. Okay, so here we go. Let me get it close so you can actually hear it clicking. You hear it? And if you look right at the top over here, you can actually see it going down. And if I can connect this on here so it stays constant, because when the air handler pulls for cooling, that's what it's doing. The transformer sends that 24 volts, and the contacts stay down, like for as long as the cooling cycle runs, which is usually sometimes like 10 minutes. So that means the coil can take some heating. So if I just hook it up, you see it's pulling 0.85 amps. Okay, but that's okay. You know what I'm saying? And that's just a way of to let you know that, yeah, you can test AC coils or solenoids with DC volts or current. And this is a 24 volt AC rated coil, but you can see I'm running it on 12 volts DC. Okay, so there's your little lesson for today on how you can run AC contactor coil on DC volts. All right, you guys. As always, thank you for watching. Please rate, comment, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so. Also, hit that bell notification button so you stay updated on when I post videos. And also, if this video was helpful to you, please leave a comment below and let me know of your situation, and maybe I can give you other pointers on maybe issues you might be having with your AC system. All right, guys. Well, that'll do it for this one. I know it was a little long, but sometimes it's real time. So you can always fast forward, to that way at least you get the gist of what the video is all about. All right, thanks, guys. I'll catch you on the next one. Ciao.